Alright. So this is Rusty Krat with a Conqueror for Honor guide. Not to be confused with Rusty Rat _ the professional raider player. Completely different person. Don't worry about it. But basically I'm going to be doing a Conqueror guide for the community event or whatever. I'm going to start off with just going through the moveset, and then we can get into ways to use them together in gear and feats and all that nonsense. So to start with, just going down the list, Conqueror has charge attacks, so you just hold the heavy button, whatever that may be for you, and you can put it in any direction. They move at about the same speed as heavies, but important thing about them, if you can grab me real quick, you cannot hit that counter guard break. You are very, very vulnerable to guard breaks. You're generally not safe. If you dodge it, it'll behave weirdly. You can hold all block or you can tap all block to cancel it. But in general, it's not a very safe thing to do if you're just in a duel, because it will incentivize whoever you're fighting to come up and grab you. Not generally recommended. Next, Conk has something called superior block. So if you'll just throw a heavy into this guard here, you'll see he stumbles, and Warden has that like 2 heavy in a row chain or whatever. He cannot chain off of that. It bounces off the shield. And something special about this, if you'll heavy again, when you block a heavy, you get a free guard break on your opponent. This can be really helpful if the opponent's just starting to throw heavies into your guard. You don't have to parry it. You can just get that grab. It's really, really helpful sometimes in fights if people are trying to feint, and if you can't hit that parry, you can just slow down, hit that block, get that free grab. Next, there's superior block heavies, which behave about the same way if you'll throw a heavy in this direction. Oh, I fucked it up. Go again. There. You see how I block the attack? Do it again. I block the attack without actually interrupting my heavy motion. There's a window. It's not continuous with the parry window. Sometimes it's actually a little bit earlier than the parry window, where I will block whatever incoming attack from the same direction and still completing the animation and hitting the heavy. So something important to note about this: there is at least on Warden and a few other classes, there is a window between the superior block window and the parry window where you can be hit. As you saw the first time, I did it a little bit late, but it was before the parry timing, so I got hit. So that's just something to keep in mind. There's not a lot of incentive to try and get a superior block hit. It's just another thing that adds to Konk's defensive ability here. In team fights, it can be helpful a lot if you're trying to finish off an enemy in a 2v1. You can just get that randomly, and it will really help you land that last heavy to turn it into a 1v1. Very, very helpful sometimes. And also it stumbles just the way that normal superior block does. So that's very helpful in a lot of situations. Next is full block. I've rebound that to E. It depends on what you've set it to. But you can see here, so you just hold the button and you're in all block. It only drains stamina when you block a hit. And it kind of breaks and reforms. You see, if you get hit while you're out of stamina, you just fall over. But it kind of breaks and reforms every time you eat a hit. But it'll be in time for anything they throw at you. Generally, this is kind of different from Warlord's all block, because for one thing, you'll notice that if it kind of breaks when you're hit by a heavy and reforms like that. So it's not that great in terms of just eating attacks. Plus, there's nothing that chains off of it except for the shield bash, but it's nothing guaranteed. So really, your all block button is most important just for using it for all of the other things that it does, not the actual all block effect, unless you're trying to eat one attack and chain off of it. But in most scenarios, it's not really helpful. Unless you're just choosing people. Next, Conquerors cannot feint. This is important. I mean, it says that, and the feint button doesn't do anything. But, yeah, see, showing off. But, you can use the all block button to cancel heavy attacks. Like that. You have to hit the button much earlier than a feint. It doesn't do the little after image thing. But it's really, really easy for your opponent to fight that just purely on reaction, because you have to feint, so you have to quote-unquote feint so much earlier. And the timing takes a little while to deal with, and it's just good to keep in mind. You can use it to bait out really whatever you want. Like you see there, he threw a heavy, kind of like he was parrying, and that just gives me the parry and the grab, because I have time to recover off of, because it's essentially a feint. Yeah, it's very helpful. So it says, the moveset says can't feint, and so you're basically going to want to rebind if you play Conqueror like I do. I've unbound my feint button and just bound the feint button to all block, because that's really all I use it for, and so I have it bound to E. I'm using the keyboard. If you're going to play a lot of Conq, don't just unbind the feint key, really. It's not important. Next, Conq, like all classes, has a zone attack. You can hold it, and you just keep spinning your mace in circles. It always comes from your right side or your opponent's left side. It's honestly kind of easy to parry, but it's really good for clearing minions. You have that giant circle around you, plus on a single tap, it does 2 circles. So, it's a really good minion clear. It's very effective. If you have your level 1 feat to heal off of minion kills, then you can heal like a bar and a half, even 2 bars at a time, depending on how clustered the minions are. It's very helpful. But in actual fights, it's kind of a waste, because it's pretty easy to parry, because it's very telegraphed. Yeah, it's just not particularly helpful in 1v1 combat. Maybe if you're surrounded by 4 people and you're on your own and you're waiting for teammates to show up, you can use it to hold them at bay, but you're gonna get parried on. Alrighty, so now we've finished the left side of the moveset, we can go down through the chains and all of the combos and everything. So to start off, Conqueror has infinite light attacks. They do have to come from different directions. You can't light attack in the same direction. And it's very susceptible to parries. Generally not that helpful, but again, a very good minion clear. If you've got like 6 minions in a line, you can just unlock and just keep clicking well, that time I hit a wall. You just keep hitting the left click button, and if you hit a minion, it'll chain properly instead of just looking weird and hitting that warden there. Next is a light heavy combo, which is going to kill him, but light. All right. So it's light attack. Oh, he's dead. Alright then.
I'm sorry, can we redo that whole segment?
Yeah, sure.
Someone was talking to me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. Alright, so now that we've finished the left column of the moveset, we can go down the right column, which has all of the combos and etc. So, top of the list, something very helpful is Conqueror has just an infinite light attack chain. They have to come from different directions, which is pretty important. They don't have to hit. But generally, again, as is the case with Conq, a lot of the time, it's not very good in a 1v1. It's just throwing out a light attack. It's kind of telegraphed. It's very susceptible to a parry, and then whatever parry punish the other guy has. But it's very good at clearing minions. So Conq's zone and Conq's infinite left attacks, or infinite light attacks, are very, very helpful. And I mean, they're instantly locking on to him. So if I run away here and just keep left clicking, it doesn't do anything. But if they hit on a minion, it like goes to the animations and has the little effect on the mace, like the turquoise effect for chain. It's very helpful. And so again, if you have that level 1 feat for healing when you kill minions, it's very helpful for a quick heal if you just are running through that minion lane. Next, Conqueror has a light heavy chain. nothing particularly special about it. Not totally helpful, because chances are, sure, you'll get that first light in, maybe you'll even get the second light in, but by the time you throw that heavy, they're going to be ready for it, and they're going to parry it, if they know what they're doing. It can be helpful maybe in a team fight, but Conk has the next one, which my teammate doesn't have enough health to deal with, so we'll just pop through real quick. Oh, okay. Alright, so last in the Conqueror's attack chains is just a 2 heavy combo. Again, not anything really special about it. If you think your opponent isn't going to expect the second heavy off of, you may have a guaranteed heavy in some situation, you think your opponent's not going to expect the second one, go for it. Or if you're looking to get the chip damage kill, why not? Not very likely. If you're feeling adventurous, go for it. But again, it's just a 2 heavy combo, nothing particularly special about it. Pretty similar, a lot of classes have that. But now we're getting into the fancy stuff, the shield bashes. So the moveset has 4 different shield bash items. We'll go through them again, just top to bottom. First is Konk's excellent ganking technique, is you just run up, and you hit your guard break button, bam, they're on the ground. And you have a guaranteed heavy off that. The thing about it is, it's very good if your team, you have a teammate in a 1v1 and you want to come in and just finish him off. He has a bar, or he's whittling you down and you just want to bang, hit him on the ground, end that fight. The thing about it is, since you have hyper armor standing up, and some classes like assassin classes, and I know Raider for sure at least, when they are standing up, they do so quickly enough where they can grab you, because you're just on the end of your heavy follow through, because it doesn't stop them from standing up, so they can grab you and they have that free grab. So you want to be careful where you use it. Not a lot of people have realized this. I've played a lot of Dominion. Very few people remember that you can do that. Shinobis never do it. Raiders don't do it a lot of the time unless I tell them. So it's actually generally currently pretty safe to just go for that heavy. But keep in mind, people will eventually figure out that they can just grab you off of it. I believe Warden can't, but we may as well test that real quick. Yeah, see, he does. In fact, it may be like all classes except like Shigoki and the really slow ones. And you saw there he had the hyper armor when he was standing up. So it's just a free grab. If they have a bar left and you hit that shield bash, go for it. That's the free kill, but you got to be careful about it. It's best used as a ganking tool, really. Or in 2v1s, if you've got your friend locked in combat, you can run in, shield bash, get the free heavy, and run out. That's a really helpful situation where the sprinting shield bash is very helpful. Anyways, so next in the forward shield bashes we have the dodge into shield bash. Pretty simple, you just dodge, hit the guard break button, and you fly forward and hit them and stumble them. So a couple special things about this. You can change how far into the dodge you use that shield bash, so you can do it late, or you can do it immediately. I know it doesn't look too different. There, I held it right to the end. But it can be the difference between dodging a Museum room or not, being hit by a guard break or not. Generally, in most situations, you want to do it immediately so that you're not vulnerable to a guard break. But sometimes you want to hold it in case your opponent has just dodged, and all that sort of thing. And off of this, in 95% of the situations, you just get a free light attack. It can come from any direction, top, left, right, doesn't make a difference. It can be from a different direction from where your guard was. That timing is not important. Yeah, it's a free light attack. You can use it to whittle down your opponent. Just bamboozle them with the stumbles and the light attacks. Soon they'll start catching on, and that's when you can do a cheese that I'll teach you later once you get through the moveset. Next, we have the heavy shield bash, where it's just a shield bash chained off of a heavy attack. And that gives you a second guaranteed heavy. If the shield bash connects, then you have a free heavy attack. But it's a pretty easy shield bash to dodge. A lot of people complain about Conk stun locking people and just comboing them to death. If you dodge the first shield bash, you're fucked and you get grabbed. And the grab isn't guaranteed. It depends on how quickly they dodge and how quickly they grab and all sorts of different factors on timing. But you can generally expect to be grabbed and not to be able to guard break to counter guard break. So unless you think your opponent is just going to run or not going to dodge, in a 1v1, don't really go for that shield bash. It's, again, very helpful in team fights because you can stun lock your opponent while your friend just wails on him. You know, when I'm playing with Shimslady here, he can just throw out top heavies while I keep stumbling this guy and knocking him on the ground with my sprinting shield bash and all that sort of thing. We do damage very quickly and very effectively. You know, 2v1s do not last long. So Conk's are really great in a team fight, and he can take ganks, but in 1v1s, his kit is a little more limited. Anyway, so the heavy does not need to connect. So I can miss, well, that time I hit it. So I can miss that heavy, and then move forward with the shield bash. And so in some situations, if you're far away like this, you want to throw at that heavy, and then throw that shield bash, you can get that heavy. So, you know, you're kind of bamboozling them. You know, you're kind of far away, they're like, oh, why is this kid throwing a heavy? Bam, shield bash, free heavy. And you can kind of freak them out if they're not ready for that. But past that, not a lot of options. It's kind of telegraphed that they can dodge it pretty easily if they're ready for it, even in that scenario I gave. But after any heavy, so you know I can do 2 heavies. Oh, he's too close. Let me back way up, because you have to be far, because he stepped so far. So you can do 2 heavies here, and then shield bash. It's after any heavy you can do that. You can do that shield bash. It doesn't make a difference. And now finally we have an all block shield bash. So you can hold all block, hit off of it. You can tap it and hit off of it. If you're doing feints or quote unquote feints, you can chain off of that and try and freak them out. So if they throw a heavy like they're gonna parry, and you hit them with that shield bash, then you've just landed that heavy without having to feint or grab or do anything fancy. You just bam straight into them. Now, this will give you that heavy attack and put you into that heavy attack shield bash chain. The light attack, the dodge shield bash is the only one that gives you the light attack, and then that does not chain off of anything. You have to keep dodging and keep shield bashing. But the all block shield bash and the heavy and shield bash, both of those put you in that infinite chain. And also, note from earlier, the sprinting shield bash, when you hit that heavy, you can chain off that into a second heavy. You cannot chain off that into a shield bash. I think so that, like, kind of on purpose. So if you knock someone down, you don't just start cheesing them and pushing them back with your heavies and shield bashes. But yeah, that's the moveset in a nutshell. There's nothing particularly special. It's kind of a short moveset. You know, it's got a scroll bar, ooh, fancy. But generally, it's kind of limited. And so now we're going to talk about what you can do to use this moveset effectively. But we're going to do that in the next round. Always important to emote spam. Alright, now let's talk about how to actually use this moveset, because on its own it's not that great. A lot of it's pretty telegraphed, but here are ways you can cheese it. First of all, anyone with a dodge attack, where they like Miserum or Sense Kick or Lobro Shove, any kind of that, you can just dodge and shield bash it. All of that is counterable, exactly like that. And you get that light attack, unless they dodge back. Next, this kind of feint cheese, you can use that to good effect if people aren't ready for it. You can use that for that shield bash. If they have quick parry timing, you can, or like quick heavy attacks, you might be a little screwed, but it kind of depends. You got to be careful where you use it and who you use it against. Let's see. Next, we're going to talk about how to use your light shield bash in coordination with other things. So, you can light shield bash them a lot, or shield bash light them, mess them around. Then, when you, say, dodge to the side and your opponent dodges, you get you like to dodge out of the way of your shield bash. Like, oh yeah, they're starting to wise up. What you can do, they dodge, and you grab. And you can, it's not a 50-50, but so it can be fought purely off of reaction. But a lot of players don't have that kind of reaction, and you can cheese it. And so especially when your opponent's out of stamina, you can get really, really hungry for that, and you can bully them into a corner, making them dodge away, making them just eat your shield bash light attack. And you can eat away at them really, really effectively. Because they can't counter, they can't dodge and then measure them, or dodge and do whatever. They have to just kind of sit there and take it when they're out of stamina. So that can be pretty helpful. Now, what you do off of a grab, very simple, side heavy. Nothing to it. Do not top heavy, because they will get their guard back in time. Honestly, kind of never top heavy. It doesn't do any more damage. I mean, it does a tiny bit more damage, but it's not really a helpful amount. You can't use it to chain off of anything. If you do your heavy shield bash, they get their guard back in time. Just generally not helpful, and that could be parried even. It's just, top heavies don't really do anything on Conk. It's not really something you should ever do. And in general, parries, you get a grab, except on like Nobushi and whoever's far away. You're not super incentivized it. There's that patch coming on like the 8th or so, on August 8th or so, where they're changing parries and grabs. But if you parry something, in most situations you get that grab. On Nobushi you don't, because they're miles away from you, because they have their long pointy stick. But again, you can always just eat. If it's a heavy attack, you can always just block it and grab. So there's some heroes where if you block their light attack, you get the grab, but if you block their heavy, or if you parry their light attack, you get the grab, but if you parry their heavy, you don't. And this is a situation where you can just eat the heavy and get the grab. You're not really incentivized to go for that parry. You can just eat it because you don't take chip damage. So they can wail heavies into your guard. You're not going to lose any health. Plus you have feats where that'll actually heal you. And we'll get into feats in a moment. But generally, that's really, in a 1v1, that's really all you can do as Conk. You can cheese them with your dodges and your shield bashes, and you can back way up and throw that heavy, and then grab and shield bash and do all sorts of nonsense. But at the end of the day, you just kind of gotta, people are gonna be mad about it, but you gotta turtle a little bit, because that lack of chip damage and that all block, not an all block, and that superior block, and so many things about it, and how reactionary Conk can be, it's very helpful. And don't turtle all the time, because people are gonna find ways to get out of that. And people are going to adapt, as always. And Conk has no true 50-50, so people are going to figure out, I can just do this off reaction and beat the absolute crap out of them. But being a reactionary is generally, defensive and reactionary is generally a good strategy for Conk. Just in terms of fighting 1v1. In team fights, it's a completely different deal. CC the hell out of them. Grab them, shield bash them, do what you want. Make their guard disappear so your opponents can wail damage into them. Warren can just keep throwing those top heavies out as long as their opponent is just stumbled or on the ground. It does a ton of damage. A Conk and a Warden can basically one-shot a Shinobi if the Conk shield bashes him, and then the Warden top heavies and the Conk side heavies. That's over 3 bars of damage, and depending on gear stats, that's enough to just kill the Shinobi immediately before they can do anything. That's really helpful sometimes, or if you're chasing someone who has 3 bars of health, that shield bash means the end of the fight. So in terms of CC and team fights, Conk is very good. Conk can also take ganks very well. That superior block is going to stop people from chaining into unblockables. Kensei might just start throwing out the Skull Splitter, or Labro has his unblockable. Everyone but Konk's got an unblockable. But the superior block will stop them from being able to chain like that, which is very helpful. So in team fights, in the superior block heavy attacks, you're trying to finish off an enemy, in a 2v1, you can get that guy down. You're down to the 1v1. You can then wail on the second guy. Again, very helpful because you have great defensive capabilities and you can make a lot of plays based off of, or you have a lot more room and freedom and defense based off of your superior block. It's very helpful. And now a very, very advanced tip, and this is not even something I can do just consistently at all. It's possible on superior block to block in one direction and finish the heavy in another. That was just a parry. It's not easy to do at all. In fact, I have no idea how I do it, but every once in a while, I'll block with superior block in one direction and heavy in the other. It does not make a lot of sense, and I'm pretty sure it's just a bug. See right there, I was trying to change my guard, and it just switched to heavy. Yeah, don't really try and do that, because I'm pretty sure it's a bug, and it'll get patched out eventually. Plus, it's not helpful in any way, because that superior block is going to stumble them regardless. But just if you notice it, don't freak out and think that you're missing some special skill. And so next we're going to talk about gear and feats, and generally what you should be aiming for to that effect. Alright, so now we're going to talk about gear and feats on Conqueror. Generally pretty simple. If we hop into my gear here, I'm at 144. I've favored stamina cost reduction. You know what, we'll start here. On the shield, I've actually gone for straight increases with the focus on attack, because all three of these are actually pretty important. If you're taking ganks, you need to kill people quickly. If you're taking ganks, you need to get revenge quickly, and in general, you need to do damage. Here, again, attack has been, I think, the focus on every single one of my weapons. But revive speed, I don't use it a lot. Other people may. It's just not the paramount. It's not the most needed thing. So then I've got execution, health regeneration, way up, because that's, again, very helpful to use. Moving into the flail head, I've got attack and defense penetration high again, so I can just keep doing that damage. And then I have block damage down 50%, because chip damage is not particularly important in this game. They're like 1 out of 100 fights you'll finish off the kill with block damage, but if you're throwing a heavy into someone's guard anyways, something's wrong. Next, we're going to move into the actual armor pieces. I've got defense and stamina cost reduction on my shoulder pads, and stamina regen down, actually, because Conk can just kind of back up and wait for his stamina to come back while blocking attacks and while just waiting for the fight to continue and get his stamina back and keep fighting. But I have stamina cost reduction increased, because that'll let you chain a lot more in those team fights. It'll let you do more and just keep on wailing on your enemy. And then defense is increased, because defense is important in general. Moving on to the chest plate, or the robes, really. We have defense and revenge mode duration increased. I could have gone for the straight increase across the board, but I thought the revenge mode duration was kind of more important, and with Konk's defense so high already, and his ability to take ganks and take attacks, revenge mode defense is not really as important, in my opinion. You may decide otherwise. That's up to you. These are just my recommendations. And now on the helmet, we have the nicest looking helmet, of course. But more importantly, exhaustion recovery and defense are high, whereas debuff resistance is low. Not a lot of people run debuff feats, and they don't have them all the time. So, and generally, I think it's probably the least helpful stat. It's a stat that comes into use the least often across all of the 18 gear stats, or less, because defense is shared and attack is shared. But I have exhaustion recovery high, because if you're exhausted as a conk, you're pretty screwed. you can't cheese people with shield bashes, you can't push them back, and you can't really run either, because they're going to start grabbing you and doing their own shield bash attacks, or Warden will cancel his Miserum into a guard break, and he'll just get you, and it's over. So I think I've actually had this piece of gear focus on exhaustion recovery to really max that out, because it's pretty important. Next, let's talk about feats. So, Conqueror has, of course, like all classes, 3 feats for each level. There's Rapidly Revive Fallen Teammates, there's Capture Control Zones faster and boosts last longer, and then there's Killing Soldiers grants you health and stamina. Honestly, there's just no contest on this one. You gotta go for the body count level 1 feat, because Conk is so good at clearing minions that it's just a waste not to use it. Like, these other two are pretty generic and aren't specific to Conk, but Conk is so good at just generally clearing minions that it's very helpful. Next, we can look at the level 2 feats. There's Juggernaut, you're slowed and gain high damage reduction. There's Shield Basher, shield-based attacks now deal damage, and then just the Flash Grenade that I think all knights have, or most knights have. I recommend Shield Basher because once you're CCing people, you can do a lot of damage with your shield. You know, late game, I actually get a lot of shield kills just because I run it and I CC someone, or I dodge and I shield bash or whatever. It does a considerable amount of damage. I think it does more damage than a light attack. It's not nothing. Plus, very, very, very helpful added bonus. If you dodge, shield bash, and light attack, depending on your opponent's build, but in almost every situation, and depending on your own build, but in almost every situation, that is a kill from regen health. That does a little over a bar damage, just like 25 damage or whatever it is. That's so helpful for finishing off opponents, because otherwise you have to hit 2 of those or 3 of those if you don't have this feat. It's so helpful to have this in terms of finishing off enemies at regen health. Next we have deal block damage when enemies block your attacks. It doesn't really mean anything. Like it's chip damage. It doesn't do a lot. There's just the grenade, and then there's healing on block, where blocking regenerates your health. Absolutely go for this feat. It's so helpful. It's so good. If you are at regeneration health and your opponent is at like half health, you can just sit there and eat their attacks and heal. This will heal on a parry, it'll heal on a block, it'll heal on whatever. And you can just heal up until you have more health of them, and then completely change the tide of the battle. Plus, you actually heal when you block minion attacks. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you're in guard mode and minions attack you on the right side and you have your guard in the right, it'll actually block it. Like, it'll make like an animation. You heal off of that, which is pretty helpful if, again, you're at a really, really low health. And sometimes bleed classes will get greedy. So if your entire health bar is bleed, they might throw in that heavy for an execution. The thing is that if you can just block that, that'll heal you and save your life, and you can keep fighting. It'll heal you enough so that you don't have a full health bar of bleed, and you can keep that fight going if they get greedy. So it's kind of a lifesaver in those situations. Next, the level 4 feat is not as important because, first of all, you have it for less of the game, but again, none of them are particularly stellar. You have uninterruptible, where your actions can't be interrupted for a short duration. You just have hyper armor eternally. It's hyper armor, so if you're finishing off someone, then it's helpful, but otherwise not really. Regenerating health out of combat, it's helpful, sure. You regen health, it's like standing on a point, but with heal on block, it's not really needed as much. With heal on block and body count, it's not really needed. I find myself, when I'm playing games, very rarely badly needing health, because I can go and kill soldiers, or I can go and stand on a point, or I can go and just block someone's attacks and regen health. And then finally there's Catapult, which is what I run, where it does so much damage, and it's so helpful if you're in a 1v3 or your friends in a 1v3 or a 1v4 or even a 1v2, the catapult can be very, very helpful because it's an insta-kill on some. I mean, it does a certain amount of damage, but it's an insta-kill on some classes, and if they're whittled down at all, then it'll finish them off. So I run catapult just on that basis. So here's my recommendation for feats. This is what I strongly recommend. Change the 4th level feat to your discretion. Find what works best for you. But generally that'll end the guide. There's not a lot more, and with the incoming parry and grab changes, Conk as a class may change a lot, at which point I might just independently make my own guide. But I think this guide, or at least the middle part of this guide, when I was talking about how to use the moveset, may change a lot in the coming days. And then I just kind of want to touch on what matchups work well for Conk, what Conk is really good at fighting in a 1v1. Centurion is pretty good, is pretty good to fight, because a lot of players like to do that, like, charged heavy, but what will happen is, some people try and parry it early and they mess up and then it becomes an unblockable. As a Conk, you can do that very easily off of reaction, because you can hold your guard in the direction that they're doing it, and then once it becomes an unblockable, you just parry it. But if they throw it in the meantime, you can eat it into your guard because you don't take chip damage, and then you can get that free grab because they've just thrown a heavy into your guard. So you can just grab them off of that. And so in both situations, you just get, if a Centurion just tries to throw a heavy of any type into you, you can get that grab, and you can get that heavy. And he doesn't have a lot of health, so he doesn't really have that kind of freedom. He can't afford to do that. Next, Warden is... It's actually overall kind of an even matchup, but Conk has one advantage that a lot of classes don't have. If you dodge and shield bash while you're being vortexed, a Warden cannot cancel and guard break you. You get out of that. So if you accidentally get hit by the first Mizram, you can be guaranteed not to be hit by the second using this, unless they cancel dodge and then grab, at which point it just becomes a mind game. But also at that point it's not a true 50-50. Because if they go for the grab, they get hit. If they start charging it, they get hit. And even if they dodge and grab, your recovery time on the dodge shield bash is so low, you have a high chance of getting that counter guard break. On the heavy and the all block shield bash, it's a longer recovery, so you're more likely to be grabbed. But on the light shield bash, it's actually pretty low. So they have to really hit you while you're passing them to hit that guard break, not after you've started to slow down. Other classes, Lawbro in generally, just because he has overall a pretty similar kit to Conqueror. He can suplex you and throw you around a little more, but it's a pretty similar kit, and so a fight against a Lawbro, if you're equally skilled, in my opinion, would go towards Conk more than Lawbro. It would not be quite an even matchup. Let's see what else. Shinobi is pretty good because fighting Shinobi is pretty good because they don't have any health, and your punish on everything is just one heavy attack. Even an out of stamina punish is just one heavy attack. So you can really do what you need in that scenario. It's not particularly important, but a Shinobi trying to throw out ranged guard breaks or ranged heavies, you can just counter guard break that or eat the heavy and make them move closer. Plus, if they do their kick, if you gotta of course time it right, but you can either grab them while they're dodging, or you can dodge and shield bash of your own, because they have hyper armor during the kick, but if you can kind of hit them out of it if they've just finished the kick. The timing's very important. And then finally, who Conk generally is weak to. I would say, by far and away, Nobushi. Conk is pretty weak to Nobushi, just because every single one of Conk's punishes is based off of, like, grabbing off of a parry or grabbing off of a block, and then getting that heavy. Otherwise, you have to cheese people with your dodges and your shield bashes. But Nobushi's range shuts down the grabs, basically, unless you dodge forward, wait, and then grab. Because when you parry a Nobushi attack of any type, you don't get the grab. When you block a Nobushi attack of any type, particularly heavies, you don't get a grab. So you kind of have to be careful about that. You're just out of range because they're so far away. So against a Nobushi, you really need to start walking towards them and keep pressure on them. Otherwise, you're gonna just get picked away and eaten at while you're at that distance. You really have to try and corner them and then start doing damage. Everyone else, it very much depends on the player and how they play the class. It varies a lot. Just keep in mind, you don't have to parry on heavy attacks. You can cheese them with your dodge, shield bash, and just dodging and grabbing. And Conk shines best in team fights, whether they're 2v1s, 1v2s, or just 4v4s, or anything in between. That is really where Conk is the best class to be using.